What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, where today I'll be giving you guys my complete review of Solo: A Star Wars Story. Now, just in case you didn't read the title of this video all the way through, this review is quite spoiler heavy, so you have been warned. Although, to be fair, this movie has been out for a month now, so if you haven't seen it already, you've definitely got some homework to do before watching the rest of this video. So, let's get started. First off, I do want to preface that I've been a huge fan of the Star Wars franchise since I was like 7, so I will be talking about this movie in relation to how it stacks up and connects to other Star Wars movies and TV shows. So I do apologize if some references don't make a whole lot of sense at first, just bear with me. I didn't really have any expectations going into Solo. This really wasn't a movie I was asking for in the first place, and I think I speak on behalf of all die-hard Star Wars fans when I say that. But if anything, I think that helped me appreciate the movie more than I normally would have, especially after how badly The Last Jedi let me down. This was definitely a different direction for Lucasfilm to take, and I don't think there was anything in the movie that made it completely unwatchable. I will start with one negative though, and it's the opening scene. Even though we were given some kind of exposition through some of the blue text leading up to it, I couldn't really understand Qi'ra's importance to Han. I mean, just like that, we were kind of expected to know that they became really close during their time as White Worm's gang members, but because their romantic relationship wasn't given any kind of backstory, I couldn't really connect with the scene on an emotional level. So it was definitely a weak start to the movie, at least in my opinion. Also, if you've already seen my previous reviews, then you already know how much character development and writing mean to me, and that's definitely an area where this movie fell short. For one, I really didn't have a clue what was going on with Beckett throughout the entire movie. I wanted to like him, I really did, but 2 betrayals in a row just didn't sit well with me, and honestly, by the end of the movie, I felt like he hadn't really added anything to the Star Wars universe aside from that small Easter egg, apparently, about being the guy that killed Aurra Sing, which was actually kinda cool. And there also seemed to be a lot of depth missing for Enfys Nest. See, the reveal near the end of who exactly was behind that mask made me feel a little bit dumb, as if I was supposed to already know who this young, red-headed girl was. Plot twist, I have no idea who she is, and if this was some attempt at showing us how the rebellion comes in all shapes and sizes, I'm sorry, but it just didn't do it for me. I was, however, very impressed with Dryden Voss. He was probably the only other new character aside from Rio who I wish I would have seen more of. I still don't know if this was just because of Paul Bettany's incredible acting or just the way the character was written, but he had such an intimidating presence that every time he stepped on screen, I started to get nervous that someone was about to get killed. If a character has that kind of effect on me in any movie, that's a character I won't forget anytime soon. Now, I'm not going to say much about Lando since he technically isn't a new character, but I will say that Donald Glover absolutely nailed it. In that first Sabacc game, all I could hear coming from his mouth was a young Billy D. Williams, and that was just amazing for me and really says a lot about his acting chops. Even though I'm not really looking forward to any Lando anthology films, I'm hoping that somewhere down the road he starts doing voiceover work for the character, especially if game developers decide to include him in any future Star Wars video games. But of course, there's no way I'm going to sleep tonight unless I talk about that big connection near the end of the film after Dryden was defeated. You know which one I'm talking about. I was probably just as surprised as anyone else to see Maul make his return to the big screen. And yes, even though I'm completely caught up on all seasons of the Clone Wars and Rebels, it still wasn't something I expected in any way, shape, or form, especially since this happened in an anthology film. I also thought it was really cool how Ray Park reprised the role for this one really short appearance, and it was even cooler how they dubbed Sam Witwer's voice over him too. It was a moment that was super fan servicey, and you can bet that I absolutely ate it up. Without a doubt, it was a real power move by Lucasfilm and the writers to do this. For casual Star Wars fans that haven't seen the Clone Wars or Rebels, I can imagine how confusing it must have been to see the Sith Lord in one piece, alive, after we all saw Obi-Wan cleanly slice him in half in The Phantom Menace. So, I guess one thing we can expect from this is that more of the casual Star Wars fans will probably start getting into the TV shows, which is definitely a good thing since they do fill a lot of plot holes in the original saga. Now, do I think this cinematic reveal is some kind of setup for Maul to have his own anthology film? No, probably not. To be brutally honest, Disney doesn't have a track record of listening to what fans want out of these new Star Wars films, so I think this may have just been a way for them to keep us wanting more. Alright, so now I can sleep tonight. So let's move on and talk about the Millennium Falcon in this movie. As someone who loves seeing how visual effects continue to evolve over the years, it was so freaking awesome getting to see the Falcon zipping through the Kessel Run with so many TIE fighters behind it. And it was hilarious watching it get torn apart after we had just heard Lando talk it up like it was the most beautiful ship he's ever owned. And when Chewie took the co-pilot seat right next to Han for the very first time, literal goosebumps. I got so happy I could barely contain myself. And then I also got really sad when I started remembering what happened in The Force Awakens. But there was one moment, at least for me, that was hysterical and just downright adorable. And that was the little droid rebellion that L3 accidentally started when the gang was moving the unrefined coaxium on Kessel. Seeing a little gonk droid go absolutely nuts on a computer panel was something I never knew I needed, and I started cracking up so hard in the theater as it was happening. And it was also kinda cute when she told Lando she'd found her purpose by freeing all the droids, which made her death hurt that much more, especially since it happened so suddenly. I really did appreciate the musical score in some parts of the film. There was just something about the theme for Enfys Nest that felt so unique and intense, even for someone who's technically a good guy in the grand scheme of the story. See, Nest is a rebel, not a criminal, and yet her theme makes it sound like she's neither. Instead, it gives her the presence of some kind of respected tribal leader, looking out for the real victims of the Galactic War, which she revealed to be the natives of Savareen. Also, the Kessel Run got me so good by bringing in some of the music from the original trilogy. It put me on such an awesome nostalgia trip that I was pumping my fists in the air during the whole sequence. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but when Maul reveals himself at the end, you can actually hear a few notes from his Duel of the Fates theme in the background. And that got me really excited. So, hats off to John Powell for quoting John Williams so many times in less than 6 minutes. I really have to give it to the costume designers for this movie. I know this isn't really a make or break kind of thing to worry about in a Star Wars movie, but I always notice some of the less important details and I was pretty satisfied with what I saw. For example, when Lando was first introduced, he looked pretty much exactly the way I expected him to, with his fancy shirts and really colorful capes. He looked like the rich, successful tycoon that we all came to know and love in Empire Strikes Back, and I couldn't have been happier with that. And of course, I'm sure many fans were impressed with the look that they chose for Enfys Nest, especially with how intricate her helmet design was. Even though it was later revealed that she wasn't actually a villain, throughout most of the movie, her costume gave me the impression that she was definitely a big bad guy. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about Solo. All in all, I thought it was a decent movie and a worthy addition of the Star Wars universe. I definitely walked out of the theater with more satisfaction and more of my questions answered than when I saw The Last Jedi. However, once again, I do think it lacked in character development, and some scenes just weren't necessary to the whole story. Would I see it again? Yeah, probably. I mean, at the end of the day, it was an adventure film that did all the things good adventure films should be doing. It was fast-paced, it was entertaining, but that's all it really was. I don't think putting any more time into making this anthology film would have made a difference because the director and writers were already pretty restricted by what we know about Han Solo from the original trilogy and The Force Awakens. With that, I'm going to give Solo a Star Wars Story a 7.3 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing more reviews. You guys stayed with me for the whole trip, and that honestly makes you guys the best. I would love to hear your thoughts on the movie in the comments below and whether or not you agree with my overall rating. And of course, if you liked what I had to say about Solo, don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. Anyway, that's all for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Keep it real, y'all.